North Adams Finance Committee budget meeting. This is the second meeting that we're having. Actually, we had one in April as well. I am just going to read off the notice pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the North Adams City Council Finance Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information in the general guidelines to remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right or requirement to attend this meeting can be found in the North Adams City website at northadams-ma.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen or watch the meeting may do so by accessing through Zoom. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post to the North Adams website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the proceedings. So I'm calling this meeting to order, and let's see, I'll take attendance of the Finance Committee. Councilor Wilkinson?
Yeah.
Okay, Councilor Bona? Okay, no, Councilor Bona is not here, and Councilor Harpin?
Here. So our first order of business is to approve the minutes of our last meeting, which I believe was April 28th. Do I have a motion to approve?
Before we approve that, shouldn't we mention that we have a quorum?
Yes, we do have a quorum. Thank you, Councilor.
Move to approve the minutes, excuse me.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so approved. I do have a message here from Councilor Bona. He's trying to get into the meeting. Not sure. Councilor Lamb, could you please send him the link in case he has the wrong link?
I won't be able to do that because I'm not able to log into the administrative account.
Okay.
But he should be able to click the link that just sent to his email an hour ago.
I got it 5 times.
I know, we did get quite a few of them.
A lot of reminders just in case.
I'll forward them the link from my computer right now.
Okay. Well, we'll just give him a few minutes to see if he can get on, since he is attempting to get on. Okay. All right, so we'll get moving. He should be getting on. So over the weekend, this meeting is actually scheduled for the general government meeting, general government and the North Adams schools and the McCann School. So I thank both Superintendent Brosnan and Dr. Melkus for attending and getting through this with us. Over the weekend, I diligently, and I'm sure the other finance committee members and counselors went through the budget in order to see where we were at for fiscal year 21. And as the mayor has mentioned previously, it's kind of difficult to do considering where we are with the state and the information that we were getting from the state. So I was very concerned as I looked at the budget, trying to figure out where the receipts were going to be coming from, as we didn't have some definite information from the state, but that changed today. So other city councilors have received the memo that the mayor had sent out this afternoon, stating that the state is actually doing a 1/12 budget And within that 1/12 budget, what they are doing is they are sending us receipts based on fiscal year 2020 for the month of July, with the hopes that they can send more definitive information to us within the month of July. But if not, then they will do the same thing for the month of August. So we did get some information this afternoon that would help with this budget process. And in speaking to the mayor, and the mayor agreed, the mayor actually called me and asked how we felt about a 1/12 budget. And I was very happy that he brought that up because I think it's the best way that the city can move forward. So the 1/12 budget actually involves taking last year's budget, which is fiscal year 2020, and dividing it by 12 for each month. So we divide it by 12 and we take that 1/12 and we budget the month of July based on that figure. So that's where we're at. Mayor, would you like to make any additional comments about that?
Yeah, just a couple to amplify what you said, and thank you for laying that out. A couple of clarifications, and I might ask Mike to speak to those. There are some things in the budget, just because the way timing works, there are things that we would not need to spend in the month of July, snow and ice being a particular example of that, and other things that we would want to spend at a higher than 1/12 level. For example, our general insurance line, we do get a fairly significant discount by prepaying that in the first month of the year. So we will base it on a prorated spending, but it won't necessarily be purely just take every line and divide it by 12. But that's the closest approximation. And again, this is really, as we've talked about, going back to the finance meeting at the end of April. It's a tricky process that we're in right now, because we don't have particularly good information on receipts. And this memo from the Division of Local Services today was quite honestly the clearest sign that we have seen to date of where local aid receipts will be coming from. You couple that with the fact that the governor, I believe it was on Friday, and it moved through the House today and needs to go to the Senate, passed a continuation budget, or introduced, I should say, a continuation budget for the month of June. And as much as I had approached this as a process that we would that I would recommend a level budget, understanding that it was, as I believe the word I used last week was a placeholder. This sign of where everything is trending says to me that our best bet is to follow the 1/12 course, at least for the first 2 months. And again, the key words in that memo from the Division of Local Services in all of this are at least. And as we've been modeling different scenarios, the budget that was presented last week, but also in the background working on a 1/12 should we need that. The clear sense to me again is that 1/12 is the way to go.
Okay, that's great news. And actually, I did get to speak with Representative Barrett this afternoon, and he was hopeful that in the month of July that we should get some more definitive information. So that's really good to hear. As far as the schools are also level funded for fiscal year 2020, which I know that both superintendents have been working diligently on their budgets with their school committees. So I just want to check in with them to make sure that they are all set with this process. So Mr. Brosnan?
Sure. Thank you very much, councilors and the mayor. I think we're all trying to put our hands around this fiscal piece. One of the things that DESE had done to us, we had about 3 weeks ago now, all regionals, because very oftentimes regionals run into this 1/12 budget issue if their budgets are not approved during the year. So there's a history in certain regions, academic as well as mostly academic regions. So we prepared that piece to know that if the state came with a 1/12, we all go back. But until today's news came out that said based on FY20, nobody had said that before in the governmental range. So we will be prepared to do the same kind of assessments that go to the city as all our other members based on the 1/12 budget, based on last year's budget or the current budget we're just finishing up. So we'll be prepared to do that. DESE still has not approved the 1/12 number. All of us, and the reason I mention this is I had to submit all of the expenses that were anticipated, including something that could be an exceptional one, and the mayor's reference about insurance is one of those. So DESE will determine what McCann's 1/12 budget will be based on FY20. So it's not me creating it. They have the numbers. They will come back and say, this is what you will assess out to your members. So we're waiting for that information as well. And as soon as that comes out, obviously we'll share it with you. So it's a little bit different in a regional basis. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Balkus, do you have anything to add?
I do. So with our being a municipality and a single school district as opposed to a regional, as Mr. Brosnan has just explained, we would have what is referred to as that continuation budget. And you know, we've really worked through many budget scenarios, as I know Mr. Brosnan has as well. We've been getting, you know, different advice over the last few months from both the Mass Association of School Committees, Mass Association of School Superintendents, DESE. And so, you know, I know publicly people have, you know, seen those reviews of different budget scenarios by the school committee, from worst case scenarios looking at, you know, significantly below a level fund budget to now where we're at tomorrow night. School committee will be presented with a level fund budget. I think it's important to note that level fund is not necessarily level service. So for us to get to a level fund, there are still some considerations and decisions that will need to be made around how we're allocating our resources. I think the good news is that it would put us in a really great place to be as we get the reopening guidance, hopefully tomorrow from the governor's office through the commissioner. We will be able to keep our grade configuration, keep our schools open, and ensure that we're able to bring students back this fall in a safe way by not having very large class sizes due to extreme reductions associated with, you know, -10 below level fund, -15 below level fund. So we prepared different budget scenarios. I think we're really we feel really good about the idea of preparing a level fund budget, but we are also prepared for when those numbers do come in, that if we need to adjust, we've got a good understanding of what is going to be needed to keep the district operational and meet those benchmarks that have been established by the school committee for schools and grade configuration.
Okay, that's great. So, yeah, I did see the slides as far as I think you had the 10% reduction, the 12.5% reduction, and then the 15% reduction. So that's something that you can just put aside for now and work on the level funding budget, which will be different from those three scenarios. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Wilkinson?
Yeah, just a quick question to the mayor. I'm not an expert on the 1/12 budget, though I've been trying to follow it as best I can. Do you have to come to city council to approve that 1/12 budget, or is that just basically the way it is?
That's one of the things that we're looking into with our contacts at the Department of Revenue. Regardless, I would I would provide that to the council, whether it's an informational item or an actionable item.
Follow up, please. Follow up?
Sure. Go ahead.
Again to the mayor. Without going into reserves, does the city have the financial resources to be able to complete the 1/12 budget?
I believe we do. One thing that we may do as we get past the budget filing and into July, I mentioned this last week, some potential places where it might behoove us to, for 1 year, move some positions or spending onto some of our reserve accounts. I may come forward with that as a request, just because I think it's a good practice in this particular time to do that. But again, we're 8 hours from this memo landing, so it's not only trying to make sure that we have the budget model built, but that I understand and I'm able to be very clear with the council what all the steps involved are.
Every day is a new day.
It's an adventure.
Yep, it sure is.
Okay, I'm just trying to, please have patience with me here. I'm trying to see if I can find Counselor Bona on this. This is my first time doing this, so I do not see him. Okay. Do we have any other questions from counselors? Okay. We do have some attendees in the Zoom meeting as well. Are there any questions from attendees? If so, if you could please raise your hand. I see Robert, Trevor, Jennifer. Or you could key in your question in the chat as well.
I see Counselor Bonas in the attendees, but not the panelists. But
Okay, I just saw him. He should be coming in now. There he is. Counselor Bona, you are now in the meeting. Can you unmute and if you have any questions regarding anything that we just discussed, there you are. You are now in the meeting.
I was watching on 3 devices. Oops. Okay, no, everything's fine at this point.
Okay. So it doesn't appear that there's any questions from any other attendees of the public, any questions from any other panelists. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a motion to recommend to the council for the mayor to submit a 1/12 budget and for that to go to the council in tomorrow night's meeting. So I am making that motion.
I will second that motion.
So moved. Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we will discuss this in city council tomorrow evening at 7:30. As far as the other 2 meetings that are currently scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday with the finance committee, we are going to just cancel those and discuss the July budget when the mayor has that ready. Mayor, I think they're probably going to have to schedule a special meeting anyways, right, of the city council?
Yes.
Okay.
Just because we don't have the budget approval on the agenda for tomorrow, so we will need the extra meeting. And I want to make sure, again, from a process standpoint, we're following the DOR guidelines appropriately.
Okay. So if there's no other questions.
Move to adjourn.
Yes. Right. Second? Do I get a second? Any other questions, Mr. Brown? Did you have a question?
No, he was just saying hi.
Okay. Okay,
I was just
So
waving
I'm-
goodbye at the time. I knew it was the official vote you were taking.
okay. So I would second to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you all for attending.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.